Alright, yeah, welcome back to some more Magic Arena, and today we're going to be playing some Best of 1 for Historic with a pretty damn budget list. This is going to be a red-white Angry Bogles list containing a maximum of 4 rare wildcards outside of the mana base. We are running Sacred Foundry, Clifftop Retreat, and Castle Ardenvale in here, which do kind of break the budget. However, for well-established players, I imagine most of you will end up having the Sacred Foundry or the Clifftop Retreats and a one of Castle Ardenvale in some combination or another. You can actually swap these out for tap lands if you like, but for the purposes of this video, the win rate is probably much better if you do have your untapped lands on turn 1. So you can run without these, but you will suffer a little bit as far as the win rate is concerned. Currently, as of the recording of this deck tech, this list is actually 14 and 4. Only in the casual queues, though. I don't really play ranked all that much. But 14 and 4 seems decent enough to me anyway for such a small sample size. But anyway, let's get to the list, shall we? Originally, I wanted to build this deck because of the printing in M21 of Fervor of the Bittern, a 1-mana aura that gives +2/+2 and attacks each combat if able. It actually looks pretty small, but when you think about what we're going to be attaching it to, it ends up being a lot more powerful. So Champion of the Flame is probably one of the biggest creatures to come out in recent memory, short of Jumpstart, which we'll get to in a second, that actually benefits from auras quite exceptionally. A 2-mana 1/1 with Trample that gets +2/+2 for each aura and equipment that is attached to it. So essentially, for 1 mana, Fervor of the Bittern ends up being a +4/+4 on Champion of the Flame. So you can have yourself a turn 3 5/5 just by 1 aura alone. Fortunately for us, when Jumpstart came around, Core Spirit Dancer ended up getting printed, which was quite a surprise to me, honestly, but very happy to see it nonetheless. This is going to actually take the form in a similar sense to Champion of the Flame, giving +2/+2 for each aura attached to it, which is great. And it also has a similar effect to Cetessan Champion in the green Bogles list that you might expect. It says actually whenever you cast an aura spell, you may draw a card. So all of these 1-mana auras end up being cantrips as well. We do have all the glitters to tie the deck out Boggle-wise as well. 2 mana for an all the glitters that gives +1/+1 for each artifact and enchantment you control. On top of a Champion of the Flame with built-in trample, that's going to be pretty insane indeed. In this list, as many of my regular viewers will know, I do enjoy putting a little bit of a meme into the deck. So for today's meme, we're going to be using Valduk, Keeper of the Flame. Don't actually recommend putting this one into the deck, but the 14 and 4 record that I stated earlier was in fact with this card in the list, so take that as you will. But if you want to actually build this deck up a little bit more for the increased win rate, I would probably recommend cutting Valduk for a 4th copy of Glaring Aegis. But for the purposes of this video, I do just want to stick as many auras onto Valduk as possible, to be honest, because I think it is pretty sweet. Every aura that's attached to him gives you a 3/1 with Trample and Haste, so although I think it is a bit of a meme, it is also an explosive win con that can just win on the spot, and hopefully we get to showcase that in today's videos. We also have Danither Capuchin Paragon to top off the curve as well, a 3-mana 2/2 with Flying, Vigilance, and Lifelink. Nice keyword soup for this one. It means that basically ++ effects are good enough as they are, since the one thing that we could really struggle with is aggro decks that are a little bit faster than us. But if we do have that lifelink on a big creature, then shocks and stomps and things like that are not going to be able to take out Danither in time. You might say that they can do it on turn 3. Well, we can actually protect if we wait a little bit longer. Ideally, we want to be playing things like Champion of the Flame and Core Spirit Dancer with a bit of protection, and we're choosing to go with Karamitra's Blessing for this one, as well as Allseed of Life's Bounty, a 1-mana 1/1 enchantment lifelink, another great target for your auras, if you choose to go that route anyway. But alternatively, this ends up being a God's Willing effect. You can sacrifice it to give a creature or enchantment you control protection from the color of your choice. So protection from red if your opponent's using burn spells, or black if it's hard removal, things of that nature. We also have Karamitra's Blessing, a 1-mana instant that gives +2/+2 until the end of the turn, and if it's an enchanted creature or an enchantment creature, it gains hexproof and indestructible, essentially playing around board wipes and removal spells. Should also mention Face of Divinity, kind of like a Daybreak Coronet to top off the curve, 2/2, and it also gives First Strike and Lifelink, making a mini Danither. if you do end up attaching that to something. It's very nice, and it will pretty much end the game on the spot if you manage to get this equipped onto a big creature. But yeah, that's essentially the list. If you do enjoy the deck, then make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more content like this in the future. If you know somebody who's just getting into Magic, then this is a great start for them as well. It's a nice and simple deck. You just play down your stuff, and then you try to protect it while you make it huge. It's a really great experience, I would say, for newer players, and the deck is honestly pretty decent as it is, coming in with 4 rares just outside of the mana base anyway, and then there's another 9 in the mana base. You don't necessarily need Arden Veil, but it will occasionally win you the game nonetheless, just by giving you that 1/1 that you can then use your auras on. Sentinel's Eyes and Escape Velocity with Escape means you can cast these from your graveyard, so you always have some sort of aura to play, which is pretty cool. But yeah, let's get to the gameplay, guys. This video is brought to you by the generous support of our wonderful patrons and channel members that you see here. If you'd like to support the channel and get access to cool content like sneak peeks, bonus videos, polls on future content, or access to a personal deck critique from myself every month, then hit the join button down below, or check out the Patreon link in the description. With all that said, let's get into the gameplay. Yeah, you can always tell when it's the first game of the day because the client kind of bugs out when it's loading. This hand is interesting, and I think we're going to keep it because it is interesting. So, not happy to see that. It looks like it's going to be goblins for our opponent, so we want to be, hopefully, ooh, okay. It's not too bad. We want to be playing around Fanatical Firebrand as best we can. Probably want to do, like, all the glitters on All Seed, to be honest. It's a weird one. Because I need a land that makes this Arden Veil not garbage. So, for our opponent to kill Core Spirit Dancer, they would have to go land... I'm assuming they're goblins, by the way. Land 1-drop, like Prospector or Firebrand, into Cycled Gem Palm. If they don't have that, there's a pretty good chance we win. I could also, like, bait it with a Champion of Flame. But I think I'm reasonably confident that they don't have that exact combo. Unless it's mono red. Mono red deciding Firebrand's worthwhile. Nope, it is goblins. Okay. So, we are going to hopefully chain some stuff together. I'm going to lead off with Escape Velocity on Core Spirit Dancer. Hoping to draw a Plains, so I can then do all that glitters, I suppose. Absolutely. Glaring Aegis. Alright, well, if they swing in with Krenko, they make 2 goblins, that goes up to 4. That's not ideal. So I guess I do have to go Glaring Aegis and draw a card here just to get it completely out of range of our opponent. And we're looking for Face of Divinity now. We'll tap Krenko. 69, yes. Just as I planned. There we go, the winning combination. I don't think I'm in any rush to kill my opponent here. So let's just pass the turn. If I let Krenko through, I generate them goblins, and that can actually come back to bite me, to be honest. Goblin Trash Master can only get artifacts. Fantastic. And now we wonder. I think we go with All Seeds, and we're going to do the life gain, I think, here. All Seed, and then give it an All the Glitters attached. Or do we want to go with the Champion of Flame with the protection backup? Because then we can actually put it all on Champion and make him huge as well. He'll probably win the game on the spot, in fairness. Yeah, let's just go with a Champion with All Seed protection up. There we go. We'll pass the turn. Probably shouldn't auto-pass. Just in case they choose to use their Firebrand, and then I will probably sack my All Seed. Yeah, we want to give it protection from red at some point or another. Alright, Mountain Instigator makes 2/2/2s. 3 mana left, could go with a chieftain, perhaps. Just gonna say no. Alright, well, I think we're about to start winning. So, let's make sure it taps in a way that pleases me. We're gonna go Champion of the Flame, draw a card. Our opponent will go Firebrand, I will sack Alseid in response. To give protection from red. And our opponent, if they have Gem Palm there, then that makes a big difference, but they didn't. And I think we bypass the Karamitra's Blessing altogether, and we just go for a big All That Glitters. For a 13-13 Trampler, and leave back the 69. Oh, yes. Alright, opponent, win the game. They don't have haste immediately, so, like, Krenko coming down wouldn't make a great deal of difference. They got Wily Goblin and Muxus, so they can go pretty damn wide, in fairness. But they can't really afford to attack, otherwise they will lose to the Champion of the Flame. They're going to lose to it anyway, because I will Alseid give protection from red, which means they can't block. And then hit them for 13. There's no life gain in a mono-red deck. So, yep, that is the game. And just as soon as they notice, we'll move on to the next one. Are you coming in for the 69? Don't blame you. Come on in, there's plenty for everyone. Here we go. Another Spirit Dancer. Completely unnecessary. We have no red auras on the champion either, so there's nothing to worry about dropping off there. Protection from red, please. And get on in. Alright, pretty standard. I like it. I like it. Alright, let's go for another game. Alrighty then, we're in. And this isn't the strongest of starts I've seen, but I think it's one that we can keep nonetheless. We got turn 1 Alseid into turn 2 Spirit Dancer. From there, we can put Face of Divinity onto something. Probably, I don't know, maybe Valduk. He's only in here for the memes, if we're being honest, but he is still a pretty decent target for a lot of auras. In 3-1s with Trample is no joke. Rootbound Craig for our opponent, so it feels like maybe a Dinosaurs deck from them. Kahira, I believe, does care about dinosaurs, yep. Should mention that their commander that we weren't allowed to play is Kahira the Orphan Guard, 3 mana, 3/2. Vigilance, oh my goodness. Let's see, what do we want to do here? Because we do have the potential for Sentinel's Eyes onto Spirit Dancer, though we could get blown out by a Stomp. I could also go with Spirit Dancer number 2, and that way I draw 2 from my Sentinel's Eyes. That's a weird one. Let's get in for 1. I think we'll go with the Spirit Dancer first. I feel like having 2 out means that we can't possibly lose, but you never know. Okay, so land, and yes, our opponent is officially on dinos. So do we go with Valduk because it's funny? It would be funny, wouldn't it? It would not be very efficient on our mana, but it would be funny. What's the worst thing that could happen here for us? Getting flame sweeped? Eh. I guess our opponent could have like a Savage Stomp, but even then, like, if they Savage Stomp Valduk or the Spirit Dancers or whatever they decide to stomp, we'll just put it on something else and win. I feel like we're that into winning this game that I shouldn't really have to concern myself with what our opponent can do. I feel like this game is in the bag, is what I'm trying to say. Thran's Temporal Gateway. Wow, okay. It's getting spicy in here. So we're going to go with the Sentinel's Eyes and try to draw into a land for the Face of Divinity. I think that's our plan. Karamitra's Blessing, though. Okay, we're going to hold that open instead. And we're going to stick the Glaring Aegis on Valduk. Draw the cards. Because I'm not sure what they could have. I guess actually we could even go Sacred Foundry, Escape Velocity on Valduk, draw 2 more, and we still get to hold up in the Karametra's Blessing for protection here. And we make some additional... Oh boy, we could even do further at the bitten. How much is that? 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17... That's lethal. Okay, fair enough. Alright, fair enough. We'll do that instead. Yeah, when you've got a guaranteed win... I feel like it's just, you know, worthwhile to really do the coolest things that you could possibly do, and yeah, that seems good. That seems good. I wouldn't say that's really an argument for having Valduk in play, but that's what Valduk can do in this deck, for sure, is just pop off and win the game. But ideally, what we would have probably done is gone on to the Spirit Dancers and made these huge instead, with the Face of Divinity giving the first striker lifelink. Gaining too much life is really what I expected to occur from this game, and therefore nothing they could do, even something like Polyraptor combo, wouldn't be enough unless it was, I guess, infinite? I don't know. I feel like we could have gained enough life anyway if we'd have decided to go on the Face of Divinity route, that nothing our opponent could do would matter. Like, Gishath would be less than ideal, but if we put all of these auras onto a Spirit Dancer with a face, then it's got the lifelink to essentially block whatever our opponent Gishath's into, that we shouldn't have to care. I guess Zakama would be less than ideal, since that one gets to destroy enchantments, but yeah, that's really about it, to be honest. Okay, we are on the draw with, I think, what is considered a reasonable hand if our opponent doesn't have interaction. I think it's also just fine regardless. So we're going to go turn 2 Champion of the Flame. Depending on whether it lives or not, depends on whether we go Danither. Otherwise, putting Sentinel's Eyes and Alder Glitters onto it in the same turn is going to be pretty spectacular. I don't even know how big this thing's going to be, but it's going to get +2/+2 for each of these, and then it's going to get +1/+1 for each enchantment and artifact that's attached to it, which is just more. It's just more. Sentinel's Eyes being a +3/+3 for 1 mana is pretty absurd. So hopefully our opponents, proper 33, hopefully they decide they want to play. Okay, our opponent has arrived. We're going to keep the hand. And how are they going to lead? They decided to keep their 7, which is a Temple Garden start, which is, honestly, is very good for us. We're going to go with the Plains, so that the Ardenvale comes into play untapped, and I don't accidentally screw myself over with that later down the line. And yeah, we're just going to go with the Champion of the Flame. Our opponent's start typically means that we shouldn't have to worry about any kind of interaction. Not sure what they could be, but it's not in general the colours of removal. They could have like Seal Aways, but Sentinel's Eyes plays around that. Oh, it's a Bogles Mirror. Alright, well, if that is the case, we're going to instead go with Core Spirit Dancer so that we can draw some cards here. And yeah, let's get Sentinel's Eyes on the champion and start pushing through that damage. We are looking for Face of Divinity at this point. So instead of going for mass damage, instead we're just going to go for a little bit with some future-proofing card advantage here. And next turn we're going to draw 2 cards, going with the Glaring Aegis to tap down our opponent's Setessan champion, and an All That Glitters. I think we should have a pretty huge creature. The big stickler is if our opponent can have lifelink before us. Oh, Wolfwiller Haven? Oh, it's not Bogles then, it's actually just Enchantress. Or it is Bogles, and they've got Ancestral Mask. So it should be noted that our opponent does have 2 effectively versions of All the Glitters. They've got Ancestral Mask included in theirs as well. So if they've got the right cards, they could race us quite easily here. But we do have All the Glitters. I'm not even sure how much this puts on them. It's an 8/8. We'll go with Glaring Aegis. I mean, we could have 16 points here. I'm really not sure. It's 12. And then we'll do escape velocity. What is that? 16! There we go. Alright, that's how it's done. Turn 4 win. Yeah, figured we'd be roughly around their life total ballpark with all of that, so pretty solid. I think if our opponent got to untap, we might have lost, in all fairness. We do have the Glaring Aegis to tap it down again if it does have lifelink and they go on the blocks, but with them having something like... where is it? It's in here somewhere, right? Show me the thing. Sentinel's Eyes is what I'm thinking of. To give Vigilance, and then if they have something that gives lifelink as well, like the card that we're choosing to go with, the 3 mana one, then we could be in a lot of trouble. It's basically all about life swings, and we swung first, so we won. Sweet. Alrighty then, on the draw with a Champion of Flame and an Alseid as our creatures of choice. We do have some decent enough auras to stick on the Champion. I think this is a keeper. It does, however, fold a little bit too hard to any kind of interaction on the Champion of Flame here, so we might be inclined to go with the Alseid first to give protection, but if anything, it's probably going to have to be protection from red, and our opponent mulls extremely hard, so we're not really going to see too much of a interesting matchup from them, I don't think. Though Goblins does have that explosive nature to them. Going to go into a Legion Warboss, okay? Well, our opponent best hope that we don't find a Face of Divinity, because the auto attack there is not going to be very friendly to them. We're just going to go with the Champion of Flame to race, and we hope our opponent does not have Gem Palm Incinerator to cycle here. That would be less than ideal. Goblin, Crater Maker, and yeah, that's real bad. Okay, well, we do still have the Alseid, which has built-in lifelink, which is more value than you might expect. Because our opponent's forced to attack into us, so the bigger we can make our lifelinker, the better. So I think we'll go with a Fervor of the Bittern here. And a Glaring Aegis. This allows us to play around the Gem Palm. And they need something like Skirt Prospector off the top in order to stop us from gaining 4 points every time they attack. And not really going to be the case. So all the Glitters or Face of Divinity, something like that will seal the deal for us here. You really want to get in with the Warboss? Getting in with that 2/2 says you want to get in with the Warboss. You only have to attack him with 1 token. Actually, 2 tokens. Don't make this an easy block. It's getting very easy for me to block here. Wow. Okay, so their idea is to essentially race me, and I don't think losing war bosses is the best way to do that. Core Spirit Dancer, so we can actually draw into our big threats a lot easier. We're going to actually go on the Core Spirit Dancer here. Since we don't have, like, all the glitters to really make a huge difference on the life total of the Alseid here, we're just going to do that. And do we even swing in? I don't think I do. I do have to, actually. Fervor of the Bittern. Of course. Of course. So we're getting our life here. We'll still block very easily. We're at 17. Yeah, got to keep that card in mind. It's the reason why it's so good is it forces the attacks, and yeah. Okay, I'm pretty sure any aggro deck would have folded to that, but they did mull pretty aggressively for that hand. Yeah, just imagine if we had the champion with trample there, that would have been quite nice. But yeah, solid stuff. Next game. Okay then, on the draw, we only have 1 creature, but it is an Alseid with the potential to be actually reasonably huge. So I could lose if our opponent has removal for the Alseid, But I'm going to take my chances on this one, I think. The hand otherwise looks pretty great. So, turn 1, All-Seed. Our opponent's led off with just an island, which could be a number of things, to be honest. Ooh. Blue-red. Yeah, I think they're just holding up and burn spells, to be honest. So I'm a little hesitant to apply any damage here. I think it's going to be like the Delver list. And we'll just go Sacred Foundry tapped. I'll wait until I've got something to protect with Alseid, I think. Or until they tap out. If they tap out, then we can go pretty huge. In fact, we can play lots of spells on exactly the same turn. And Glaring Aegis. Okay, so we'll just swing in again. Just build up our hand full of potential card advantage if we end up top-decking Core Spirit Dancer. We kind of knew we'd sign up for this kind of hand, where Alseid would be our only real threat. And sadly, the only way we can win this is by waiting for something like that. Champion of the Flame. So, they probably have Shock. If they have Shock, I want to not play red auras. So Escape Velocity is kind of the first thing that you would assume you'd want to put on there, but I think it's actually going to be the Glaring Aegis to give it that booty protection. And now we've got the Alseid as well to play around Shock here in response. It's unsummons we've really got to be upset with. Okay, Spell Pierce. On that note, I guess we go with... This would be a 5/5 Champion of the Flame. I think we pass with Alseid open. I think it's too risky, to be honest. If they do have that Shock, we absolutely should play around it. There's no reason why we should ever stop doing that. Talrand Sky Summoner still has that red mana open. So it's a spell slinging Izzet deck. Very interested. This is actually, yep, there it is. Alright, so they've got the Shock. We want to give protection from red. And I think we will win if they don't have bounce effects. So we'll go Fervor of the Bitten. Sentinel's Eyes to give Vigilance. Sentinel's Eyes to give Vigilance. And Escape Velocity. We're going all in. It's bounce spell or bust, essentially, for them. 14/13 Vigilant Trampling creature. It's a shame it doesn't have lifelink, but beggars can't be choosers. So no unsummons, no Brazen Borrowers, no unsubstantiates. Okay, that's fine. Fortunately for us, our auras are also escape cards. So we can rebuild our champion. That's why we picked these. Fervor of the Bitten, Alseid, Glaring Aegis, they're just all fodder here. So our opponent passes the turn, and we got Face of Divinity. Okay. Well, this is where it all comes down to our opponent having that Shock that we think they have. They're hovering their Brazen Borrower like it's their only play. I'm going to go with a Mystical Dispute. So, just to make me pay, and I'll do that. I can go all in on it next turn when it can actually attack. So, gonna swing in with the full amount. We're gonna have to let him. And what do we want to see here? I think an Alseid is probably our best draw. Then again, a Core Spirit Dancer would allow us to draw some cards. It's an Alseid. Okay, so Alseid comes down, forces our opponent to use their removal now, if they have it. Otherwise, we attach it all to the Alseid. And they did have it. They had it, alright. So we can do Escape Velocity, +1/+0 for 2 mana, and then double Sentinel's Eyes. It's really all we can do. Get rid of the cards that we can't bring back. It's actually not double Sentinel's Eyes either, because we're going to have to escape and exile one of them. If we go on to 11 and play Champion of Flame, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Yeah, I can't block either. So I have to just go with the Alseed and... yeah, I think our opponent just has us. Took a risky hand. We got punished for it, of course. Probably should have mulled. But I think that hand that we had, if it was interaction free from our opponent, was just an easy win. So yeah, they just chump one here. Or double block. Either way. Not really playing around Karamitra's Blessing, are you, opponent? Which would be a lovely draw for us, but... don't have it. So, Frantic Inventory makes another 2-2. And that'll do it. That's all she wrote. That's Xaxes. So bring it on in, opponent, and we'll move on to the next game. Hello, on the play with a very good hand, so we're going to keep this one. We have turn 2 Champion of the Flame, potentially. I think that's probably what we're going to do. And then we're going to go turn 3 Core Spirit Dancer with Sentinel's Eyes to pump it up. Our opponent with the Chandra Sleeves, maybe giving away that they're mono red. Otherwise, just that they bought a Mastery Pass once, I guess. It is a very snazzy sleeve. I do like these Chandra Sleeves quite a fair bit myself. And often I will use them to throw my opponent off. I'll play mono blue with these sometimes. Things of that nature, but... yeah, if this is an aggressive opponent, then we're in for a pretty interesting matchup, to say the least. We're going to be looking for a period of time when they tap out, essentially, so we can make one of these two creatures extremely large and out of burn range. That's the goal. The goal is to get out of burn range, and then from there, apply every single conceivable aura we can to whatever creature it is that survived it. Now, a black deck with things like Exterminate is a very different issue. Very different issue indeed. I think we still go with Mountain Spirit Dancer and Fervor of the Bitten. I think I might have said Spirit Dancer plus Sentinel's Eyes when we didn't actually currently have the mana. Apologise for that particular bit of commentary. It's incorrect, but I guess it was technically possible, right? Alright, opponent. Is it technically possible you will take your turn? Nope. Okay. Alrighty then, let's just pet the dog. Never mind. He's not nice. That's a lie. Clearly he's the goodest boy. Can you make this dog change colour by touching his bone? Oh god, phrasing. Phrasing. I'll cut that out in post. Alright. Mono black for our opponent. So we are going to go with Spirit Dancer and Fervor of the Bitten on our Champion of Flame. It is likely to be the one that we want to die the most, honestly. And Karamitra's Blessing is an amazing pickup for us. So our opponent could have the removal here, Murderous Riders and things like that. They're actually just going to be playing mono black vampires by the looks of it. And going to go with the Haunt of Hightower. Now that is a card. I always wanted to make this card work. There's a few fun little combos you can do with it, but in general, it's not a very good card. Alright, so we're in this weird spot now where if I play any spell, I have to drop down my Karamitra's Blessing. And that worries me slightly. Especially considering, like, Core Spirit Dancer can die to Sorin's Sacrifice as well. We don't really want that either. I feel like we go on to our other creature here and we try to go a little bit wider in general. Let's kill Sorin so they don't gain life, and then let's send 3 at our opponent. I think that's ideal. So, when this attacks, we have to discard a card, and whenever a card is pointed to an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, put a counter on the Haunt of Hightower. So the fun thing you can do with Haunt of Hightower is you can exile your opponent's graveyard, and then for each card that gets exiled, it's pretty sweet. Actually, it's not when it leaves the graveyard, it's when it re-enters with... hang on a second, I'm getting a little bit sidetracked. We'll go with Glaring Aegis. Not Unmoored Ego. The one that exiles their graveyard and then allows you to cast everything that's in it. That one. We're going to go with... To be honest, I'm feeling that we should just go all in. I just don't know which necessarily we want to go all in on. I suppose we could just do All That Glitters on Champion. It's a big hit. It's the one white is killing me. Absolutely destroying me. Okay, send you there and you there. Since we only have 13 points, and we're presenting lethal next turn, assuming Champion of Flame lives anyway. Yeah, we're just dodging removal as best we can here. Which I think at this stage we stop putting auras onto anything. Because we're out of Sorin's +1 range, the 3 Lightning Helix. But we're not out of range of Eliminates and things like that, which would be very brutal. Okay, their opponent's tapped out, so they're betting that I can't beat them. I'd be inclined to say that I can. We're going to go down the Karamitra's Blessing here. And go to 7. And once again, we do not draw what we need. So. We do have the All That Glitters, so we get a +1/+1 on Sentinel's Eyes. So this is a +4/+4. That's 14 points of damage. Forced blocks for our opponent, but no life gain for us. Divine, Face of Divinity is probably what we want because of the lifelink and the first strike. I feel like that's probably what we have to go for, and we hope for a Plains. Another All That Glitters. Okay, so this needs to be blocked, which means I can can get in with the Core Spirit Dancer as well, because if they double block that, they lose. So they can only single block, which means they're going to lose something to the Core Spirit. Well, they can block with Sanctum Seeker, I suppose, and lose the Knight of the Ebon Legion. That's their option. I might as well get in with that over them double blocking the Champion of the Flame. First striking, trampling, lifelinking. It's possible I should be playing around this deck that they've got in a similar sense to the way I play around Goblins, which is if they have Gem Palm Incinerator, I have to play around that. The problem with playing around theirs is if they have any kind of removal, it'll be hard removal like Heartless Act, which requires me to go with something like Karamitra's Blessing. It would be nice if I had another Plains, because then I can go All That Glitters with the Blessing backup. Bloodbond Vampire. But yeah, I think our opponent's playing a all-in Vampires kind of strategy, in such a way where they're essentially just trying to combo off with a big Vampire. So I'm taking 12. That's fine. Opponent goes up to 17. And we once again whiff on the Plains, but that's fine, because this All That Glitters should just do it. It's 23 points. Send it our opponent. And yeah, that puts them at -2. I was at 31. Okay, pretty solid. Got a little bit color screwed there, for sure, but still managed to pull it out somehow. If they had any removal, I feel like we would have been dead, but I'm not sure we could have really not used this white source every turn. It's possible maybe going in on the Spirit Dancer a little bit more and spreading the love would have been good. But I'm pretty sure at the one point where we played Face of Divinity, that was definitely something that needed to be happening, because they were gaining life and we weren't, so they were kind of winning the tempo race as long as they could block enough of it. And the High Tower gets progressively worse as time goes on as well, so yeah, the more life they gain, the worse it is for us tempo-wise, and we were just really struggling to find that white source there. That would have just won us the game, to be honest. If I'd have had the security of Keramitra's Blessing at all times, then I would have been slapping auras on them left, right, and centre, and this would be a great deal bigger than 23-23, but we still managed to get the win anyway. And that is going to do it for today's video. Hopefully you've enjoyed. If you have, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for some more content like this in the future. I highly recommend checking out this deck. It is super cheap. At a grand total of, I believe, 4 rares outside of the mana base. The mana base is customizable in that you don't really need the duels and the checks that I have indeed included in today's video. You can go with just any old cheap tap land, to be honest. If we just go to the old land arenas, you can use a Boros Guildgate if you really need to, Stone Quarries if you really need to. Ideally, you want to use one of these, or get both of these, but a Temple of Triumph or a Windscarred Crag also do just fine. Even to a certain extent, Fable Passage and Evolving Wilds will get you by just fine indeed, because this is a very low land count deck anyway, so even that thinning can, to a certain extent, do you a lot of favours. Valduk is a bit of a meme. I would cut Valduk out and add probably an Escape Velocity or a Glaring Aegis. I'm leaning towards the Aegis after today's videos, to be honest. I think the toughness really matters on that card. But yes, if you're going to run it, Valduk down, Aegis up, and yeah, have a good time. This is a decent deck. I don't know how it performs in Ranked, because I don't play Ranked, but I imagine it does pretty decently. The meta at the moment is just so little interaction that you can get away with slapping down everything onto one creature and doing just fine. And we do have the protection, of course, with the blessings and the bounties on the off chance that our opponent is a little bit interactive. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, guys. Hopefully you've enjoyed. I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.